Good morning and welcome back after a brief hiatus to the eDiscovery Red Zone. I'm more than delighted to be here with my old friend Browning Marean, who's had a, taken a bit of a vacation due to the vagaries of chronological maintenance, shall we say. It just sucks getting old, doesn't it, Browning? Not to put too fine a point on it.
Well, as my good doctor friend says, it's not for wimps.
That's right. Growing old is not for wimps. But you look good,
Yeah.
feeling well. Hopefully things are progressing.
And, thanks. For the 4 or 5 people that will view this in the fullness of time, I can't thank the eDiscovery community enough for really their true and heartfelt outpouring of support and prayers. We sometimes are on the opposite side of cases with folks, and in many cases, they're the people that have reached out in the most touching way. So thanks to the community.
Well, that's good to hear. You've been sorely missed at several otherwise incredibly boring conferences that shall remain nameless. But you all know who you are. So hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you in person at ILTA later this summer. Hope you'll be back out and about by then.
Well, that's certainly my plan is to show up at ILTA or what's left of me.
Yeah. Well, I won't go into the details of the next procedure that you just described to me because really I don't even want to think about it.
Well, I will just to give folks some sense. I have now achieved a body image that will allow me to act as a body double for Gollum in the next Lord of the Rings trilogy. They don't need to go to computer graphics. They've got young Browning's body.
There you go. Well, in your absence for the last several months, really not much has happened. I'd like to say that all hell has broken loose, but I think the biggest, and it's still plodding its way forward, slouching towards Bethlehem, if you will. The rule changes finally made it through the committee and have been approved, to the weeping and gnashing of teeth throughout the community. Plaintiffs aren't happy. Some of the judges aren't happy. But the real question, I think, is whether they'll really make any difference in practice. Judge Shinlin at a conference last month said, in real terms, she didn't think that this would affect the actual practice of eDiscovery motion law and case law all that much. So.
Well, I would certainly agree with that. I've talked to several magistrate judges who are going to remain nameless that said in some respects they thought the rules change was a fool's errand, simply because they did not think that it would cause any significant change, first of all, in the understanding of the rules, and secondly, how they were going to be implemented. I was really rather taken aback by the stridence of their comments. I think it's going to take judges like Judge Shinlin, like Paul Grimm in Maryland, some of the real thought leaders, and when they get their teeth into a case where the new rules are implicated, hopefully that will prod us to first of all reading what the new rules are and then implementing them in our practice.
What I'm seeing over the last several months, and I don't know if it's reaction to this or just the natural progression of things, but judges are being much more stringent about reviewing pleadings and understanding what the obligations of the parties are with representations, but also a much more active role in monitoring and shepherding through discovery protocols, exchange protocols. So a much more activist role on the part of some of the judges to work that through. But on the point of obligations, there was a striking opinion came down recently that you sent me about the ethical obligations of attorneys, and I think that's something that's becoming more widespread.
Well, yes, the State Bar of California, as you know, from time to time puts out ethics opinions. California historically has not adopted the model rules, although I think our rules of professional conduct are really but a variation on a theme of what the model rules are, and certainly would be easier for all of us if they were harmonized nationally. But they did come out this year with a formal a formal opinion with an interim number on it, on what the attorney's ethical duties are in the handling of electronically stored information. And it's a very thoughtful opinion, and what it basically goes off on is attorney competence. And things, it really keys off of Judge Shinlin's epic Zubilake and pension committee cases, in which he outlines what lawyers are supposed to do and how they should be implementing this. I still sense that the number of lawyers that have a deep understanding of eDiscovery, I'm going to say it's in the 5% category, 5 to maybe 10%. And I'll take myself as an example. I certainly am aware of the issues, but in terms of hands-on, going and getting data off of computers or doing a forensic analysis or what have you, I have to rely on expertise, and that's where the vendor community comes in, and where it's critical to involve that level of expertise. I am blessed in the sense that I've got, being in a large firm, we've got a wonderful lit support group that I can turn to for a lot of that expertise. But my gracious, for the vast majority of practitioners, they don't have internal lit support, and they're going to have to go to vendors or find somebody in that 5% that will guide them through the minefield.
Yeah. And to that point, I think the other trend we've seen develop or continue to develop that ran over into this year was the increased price pressure, price dropping. Firms in general are not happy with per gigabyte pricing. They're looking, as you know, for more specific pricing, something they can really project budget on. So we're seeing a real trend towards all-in or all-inclusive pricing, almost a cafeteria style. If you want for a certain price, you can have X, Y, and Z. And that's becoming more and more widespread. I think we're going to see a lot of that at ILTA by the end of the summer. So you're right. The firms that have in-house expertise are not all that many and rely heavily on consultants and vendors to do this for them. That's a trend I think we'll see continue.
Yeah. Going to this issue of competence, I know that you were heavily involved in a recent session at Georgetown. Tell us a little bit about that. And is that a model that you think can be rolled out to a broader audience? Tell us about that.
It's a great program, and its greatness, I think, lies in the intensity and the depth of the instruction, but that also makes it difficult to roll out anyplace else. So it's run usually the first week of June every year at the Georgetown Law School by the great folks of their CLE program, headed by Larry Center.
Yeah.
Judge Fasciola, he's sort of the I hope he doesn't mind this analogy, but he's sort of the General Patton of the group, and he keeps us all in line and moving forward promptly. And then the faculty is really top notch. It's Craig Ball, Judge Fasciola, Maura Grossman, and Mark Sidoti. Then we also do and I pitch in a little bit on the side. I'm basically I'm in charge of ramrodding the coaches for the meet and confer. We split all the students up into teams, and they practice all week, getting together and working on a model pattern of facts that Craig devises to have a meet and confer session on the Friday at the end of the week with another team. It's reviewed or actually viewed by a judge. We get 4 sitting judges from the area to come in. Unfortunately, Judge Grimm couldn't make it this year because now that he's a full-time judge, his schedule is really limited. And then we also have coaches who are practitioners and consultants from the DC area who come in and work with them. So in addition to myself and Mark and Maura and Craig, people like Jonathan Redgrave and Patrick Oot come down and help out. Yeah, a couple of pretty good coaches there. So in terms of the hands-on for a group of no more than 50, I think we had 46 this year, it's phenomenal. The problem is, of course, getting people who can dedicate the time. It's a week-long, very intensive. We start on Sunday at noon. We go basically from about 8 to 7 every day between reading and coaching and exercises that they're working on. So it's an intense time commitment by the attendees. But it's just an invaluable experience because of the hands-on. Rolling it out, I think, is difficult for a number of reasons. A, the time commitment. B, getting those faculty members to leave the Northeast corridor is difficult. I think it would probably be easier to do it twice a year in DC than to try to go someplace else. And we kick it around every year, and the logistics are just against us. But phenomenal experience, and I highly recommend anybody who can get there to do it. Of course.
What were the demographics of the 46 that attended? Were they lawyers, lit support, mix?
It was about 50-50 lawyers and lit support / IT. It was also, I don't have the exact numbers. We're actually doing our debriefing tomorrow, so we'll have the final numbers. But in looking at the attendee list, I would say about a half were government employees, as would be expected, being in DC. So various agencies were represented, from the FTC, the SEC, the FBI. There were a number of different government agencies represented. And then the rest was predominantly private firms, but I would say about 20% were GC as well. So we had some major corporations who were willing to send people. So it was good. And I was also quite pleased. I would say that about 10% were small firms. It wasn't just dominated by the big firm audience. So it got to be a very cohesive group and a lot of good give and take.
Interesting. One of the trends that we've talked about in the past is as more and more companies, organizations bring the eDiscovery process in-house. There's really a growth, I think, of folks. Again, I didn't make CEIC this year, but the folks that are NK certified, as you and I know, most of the problems arise early in the process. The hold is an area where people continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Yep. And then making sure that you've preserved broadly, locked it down. Well, I'm thinking that more and more companies are building up that infrastructure because it's just cost prohibitive every time they get a lawsuit, not to turn to the outside. So I think we're getting slowly better in corporate America, where organizations want to have the audit trail. Their IT folks have been appropriately trained. They are NK certified, or they've got the skill sets, certification or no, to know how to do that. So I guess the thing that just amazes me, and I know it does you as well, is the glacial rate that this critical skill set is permeating the legal profession.
That's what's, I think, most disheartening to me, is that we have people, as you say, who still don't understand their lit hold obligations, who still struggle with the understanding of what is supposed to go on at a meet and confer. And you know, it's not like these rules were just passed last year. They've been around, but you're right. The implementation has been glacial. I would say that I am seeing some small signs of change, and a part of that I think is due to the judges being much more activist. And I think the other part is more widespread use at the state court level. We're seeing more and more state opinions, state implementation. Just last month, I did my yearly Four Corners tour of Louisiana for the Louisiana Bar, along with my buddy Craig Bear, doing the CLE throughout the state, and in each one of the venues, literally around the state, somebody came up to me and it had an ESI question at a state court level, something that was the first time. The first time that's happened in towns like Monroe or Alexandria or Shreveport, not just New Orleans, Lake Charles, where there was a big turnout. So I think the tide is coming in, but it's slow. But of course, that's sort of the watchword for our profession, isn't it? Slowly.
Yeah. Well, I also wonder, Texas, I understand, and I should know with greater specificity, but their domestic relations rules place a great premium on what the former spouse did as a part of the marriage community. And so it's my understanding that lawyers there, because of the economic consequences of knowing what that spouse did, are really going after social media, electronic data, what's on computers and the like.
Yeah.
Because it makes a huge difference. And so their clients are, and the nature of the practice is forcing them to do it.
Yep. I think that's absolutely correct. So we're getting.
So one wonders why in civil litigation, you're not also seeing this, where again the body is buried in electronic data. Why it hasn't just flashed over more?
I don't know. I mean, in the words of Yelbrenner, it's a puzzlement to me. And I think to judges who are growing increasingly frustrated with that, with not understanding how people can come in front of them and not know the best way to get at this, and hence the growing emphasis on the meet and confer and the exchange protocols. Get it right there, and don't bog the court down with motion practice 6 months, 9 months, a year down the road. Let's get it all out on the table then and get it hashed out. And I think that's starting to bear some fruit. So I think, really, for the coming year, I think ILTA is going to be an interesting conference in terms of what vendors are going to bring to the table. Last year, I was quite surprised how much eDiscovery dominated ILTA, which of course, is for the tech guys at the firms and covers the full range of their duties. But eDiscovery really took off last year at that show. I think you're going to see that again. And then I'm really looking forward to the Georgetown eDiscovery Institute in the fall, because we're going to get, I think, a sort of a melding pot, if you will, of all the various judges and commentators and folks from the different groups like Sedona. I think that's going to be an interesting think tank experience this year to get some people talking.
Speaking of Sedona, it would be wrong not to comment on the passing of Richard Kremen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and of course, I think both you and I always hate to hear of the passing of anyone younger than us.
That's right,
because it just makes us kind of look over our shoulder. Oh no! But yeah, that was unfortunate. He really had spearheaded that group and was a great thought leader. And that's an overused phrase sometimes, but I really felt that he was. And I'd also, I blogged about this earlier in the week, but acknowledge again, the retirement of someone younger than us. How are these people able to retire? That's what we did something wrong, Browning. But Bruce Olson has retired from the active practice of law and his consulting practice. And so I've certainly old compatriot from the ABA Tech Show days, former
Sure.
chair of the Tech Show, big in the techno lawyer community, and I certainly wish Bruce all the well. He and I had the great experience not only of speaking with him several times, but then writing our book, the eDiscovery for Small Cases, with him. And it was always a great experience. So I'm sorry to see him taking his leave of our space. So. Well, speaking of taking leave, I suppose we've given enough people. We've put enough people to sleep.
Yeah.
I understand you'll be out of commission now for several more weeks. So
several more weeks, and then, as I say, I'm looking forward to ILTA. So.
Yep, I will monitor your progress, and we will be in touch.
Thanks, my friend.
Thanks very much, and for everyone out there, this has been Browning Marean of DLA Piper, Tom O'Connor from New Orleans, Louisiana, saying goodbye from the eDiscovery Zone.